Alright, so we're looking at this scene again. I'm gonna teach you how you're gonna do shading. What we have here is this scene with basically a ball. That's just analysis ball. If your computer can cope, you might want to hit 5 to get the shaded display. Alright, so how do you know what material this ball has? You can go to the attribute editor to the right here. And you'll see that there are several tabs. Normally the shader is the last tab to the right here. So I can see that it has an AI standard shader and it's named Chrome Sphere with all the settings here to make it look the way it will look if you render it. We also know this scene has light, so if you were to render it, it will look like this. Right? I can press F so that I get the full frame image. The shortcuts are all here. Frame all, real size was what we saw just now. H, F gets you the full frame. Alright, so it's still rendering. We see rendering here. So it's a good idea to press stop first. Alright, so we're gonna create more balls. We now have the chrome ball. Alright, so what we're going to do today, the demo is going to basically cover lab assignment 4 and how to finish it, how to complete it. Let's go to Moodle. The brief is here under lab assignments. Lab assignment 4 is this one here. Basically, we are going to produce a 3D render image. There should be 9 types of different materials. And we need to label them. Okay. The resource is basically the Maya working file, lab 7. It's called lab 7 working file. You can get that from Moodle up here. That's the work file there. Right, and you need to submit a JPEG image file of your rendered scene. We're going to learn how to export that. And the Maya file of your scene. Name it properly, there's marks to that. Upload it inside Google Drive, and here's the rubrics, the breakdown of the rubrics. Without further ado, let's go back to Maya. Alright, we can minimize the under render view first. Here's my render cam. Most of the time I don't want to touch my render cam unless I have more balls going on here. I'm gonna bring up the two panel side by side here, and then this one I'll say perspective, which allows me to move around. This one will be, I'll change perspective to render cam. So this will be my render cam. Alright, it's a bit it's a bit zoom out here, so I'm gonna select the camera and I'll go to my display options here, and the overscan setting can be changed because whenever you change the viewport size, how much you're looking at the image will change. So in this case, in this layout, I think I want to change it to 1.3 perhaps, or 1.2. That gives me a bigger view of things. Sweet, so let's just select our ball here. I will duplicate this by pressing Ctrl D. If you remember, Ctrl D is duplicate. Yeah, so let's duplicate that. We're going to bring it to one side. Alright, and maybe it's a good idea to frame these guys properly inside the view. Alright, so with this second ball, you can do one of two things. I like to be a bit more organized, so I normally open up my outliner and I will actually rename this ball here. So let's say we're trying to do something like a plastic material. Okay, so plastic ball. This was the first polysphere, so I'll just call this chrome ball. Alright, so we're gonna do the second one, plastic ball. Although it right now it has the chrome sphere material to it. Alright, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna right mouse button here on the plastic ball, and we're gonna choose assign new material. Right mouse and hold and choose assign new material. You'll see that this window pops up. So it's going to ask you what kind of shader do you want. We've looked at using Maya shaders, and these are all your classic shaders from the Lambert's font and whatnot. We don't want to use that. Since we're rendering using Arnold, we're going to use one of the Arnold shaders. So we go under Arnold, click shader here, and we're going to choose the standard surface, the AI standard surface. Yeah, click that, and you'll see that over here to your right inside attribute editor, it now says that it's an AI standard surface shader. So we can call this plastic material, like so. Hit enter, and I'm going to use my presets here. It's quite simple, this assignment, so all you need to do is pick from the presets. So I will try to get a plastic material, and I see one here says plastic, and it says, we can say replace all selected, and the attributes are going to change here according to the preset. Next, if you want to see how it looks like, you can hit play here inside Arnold Render View, and you see that that is now a plastic material. It is rendering exactly what we see in the render cam here. So the assignment calls for you to create 9 types of different materials of your own choice. I'm gonna do perhaps 2 more, at least 2 of the harder ones, and we're gonna go from there. Alright, so here I have plastic, so I'm gonna duplicate this, Control D, and I'll bring it to the side. Right, and let's just zoom in on this guy now. Alright, it's good to remember that our object here, our ball here, it has a plastic material. Do not confuse ourselves. Maybe it's a good idea to call it a different name. So I will call the next thing that I want to do is maybe I'll do a glass ball. Okay, the glass ball needs to have not the plastic material, so we can't just change. If we change this, we'll end up changing this ball as well. So I'm going to right mouse button again. I'm going to choose assign new material. Notice what's going to happen here on the right. Yeah, oops, it's all over the place. Okay, let me just select that. Okay, right mouse button, assign new material. Right, let's just choose that. Okay, so I'm gonna pick again the Arnold shader, and I'm gonna pick an AI standard surface. See what happens here once I click AI standard surface. You see that now it has been changed, right? It's now no longer called plastic material. So I'm going to get from my presets here, and I'm going to choose the glass material, and I'll say replace all selected. We notice that our ball here glass ball here is still, it's looking black because we haven't rendered it. This is just how it looks like in the viewport. Let's just rename this to glass material, like so. Alright, and open up our Arnold Render View and hit play and see what's going on. It still looks black. So what's going on here? With the glass material, it is a bit tricky. It means that you gotta kind of change some settings to it. So I'm gonna hit stop here first. Alright, with this thing here, you need to do a couple of settings. First things first is you need to open up the transmission tab, and although specular weight is being driven to 1, making it very the highlights to show, we need to drive the transmission weight. So the transmission weight is set to 1, means that the light is not passing through it, it's not transparent. So the material needs to be transparent, and let's just crank it up to 1. And immediately you'll see that my glass ball here has a better look to it. Alright, that's the one thing that you need to do. The other thing is, it's a good idea as well to uncheck opaque here. So next to the glass material tab, there's the shape tab. Alright, go inside Arnold, expand that, and uncheck opaque. And you'll see that that will actually give you a much better rendering of a glass ball. It's good to note as well, if you uncheck opaque, what happens is it will be casting shadows onto the floor. Now with the real glass ball, the light will actually be transparent. It won't be a solid thing. If it's opaque, shadow will be casted. So uncheck opaque to get yourself a really crystal clear glass ball. So that's how you get the glass material to look quite right. And here's a note. You can actually tweak your material and not do exactly what you see in mine here. For instance, if you don't like how how transparent it is, you might feel that you want to drop the weight to 0.6 or 0.9 to make it less transparent. It's up to you. If you want to give a better effect to it, if you think that this feels like a better looking glass ball, yeah. Alright, or play around with the specular weight and see what you get. So if it's less specular, it means that you're not going to get really crisp highlights or reflections to it. So you can play around with that as well. I decide to make mine really pristine, so I'll crank up both specular weight to 1 and transmission weight to 1, and that's my glass ball here. Alright, I'm pretty happy with that. Let's stop the render. We're going to do the fourth one here, so I'm going to Control D and duplicate that one, and I'll just bring it to the back here perhaps. Let's just zoom in on this guy. Alright, we're gonna do this guy here. Alright, what kind of material we want it to be? Okay, let's not confuse ourselves. That was glass ball. This is gonna be the new ball. So I'm gonna do something that we call incandescent material. So I'll call this incandescent ball. It still has the glass material from before, so I'm gonna right mouse button here, sign it with a new material, get my Arnold shader as usual. The AI standard surface is what we're looking for, and let's just call this, well, I can actually copy it. Hold on, that was wrong. I can copy it off here. I'll copy that, and inside here I'll just paste it in. So I'll call this incandescent material. Alright, and in the presets I'll just go here and I'll choose incandescent. So the idea is, it looks like a incandescent bulb, a bulb that's glowing to that effect. Okay, if you go to presets, incandescent, and replace all selected, and if you try to render it out, let's give it a try. You see that it's starting to give a glow, but it's not really giving us a nice effect, if you agree with me. Alright, so we're gonna have to do some things with it. Let's stop the render first so that it's not too heavy on our part. Under the shape tab, under Arnold here, we need to change it to mesh light. Alright, so I'm gonna change it to mesh light, and I'll increase the exposure. I'll tell you what, let's just render it and see what we get. We get nothing. Okay, so let's just increase the exposure to 1. We gotta make sure the light is visible. Right now it's starting to be visible. Let's see if we increase the settings to 5. Okay, now we're getting something. Alright, let's just bring it down to 2 and see what we get. 2 gets you nothing. 3, we have something going on. 5, now we're starting to see it to glow. And then I can probably bring it up to 6 and see. Okay, now we're starting to get a nice effect. Let's just zoom out a bit and see how that actually affects the other stuff in our scene. Alright, it's starting to give off a glow, and you might feel that why don't we give it a different color so that we get a different kind of light going on. Yellow perhaps. Let's just tone it down a bit, so it's gonna emit a yellow light, and I like it to be a nice warm orange like that perhaps. Alrighty, and there you have it. So there are settings here, and I'm just showing you some of them. In particular, changing it to mesh light, the color. We normally don't play with the intensity. I like to go with exposure a lot, so play around with this value a lot. And it's starting to look kind of good, but there are things we can do with it. if you notice here that you'll see that there are some dots here going on. Let's see if I can zoom in a bit. Alright, so there's some dots here going on, yeah? And this has got to do with these samples here. Now, I don't suggest you to increase it. For this simple assignment, you can leave the samples to 1. But I know for a fact that if you were to increase the samples, you're gonna get rid much of the noise that is happening. All these dots here are noise basically. So let's give it a try. Let's just crank up the sample to 2. Or maybe let's just give it a sample of 3 and let's just let it render and see how it goes. Or maybe tell you what, let's just choose one of these crop regions here. So I'm gonna stop the IPR. I'm gonna show you a different thing here that you can use. We have this thing called the crop region, yeah? Alright, so I will actually just say I want to render that much and then I'll hit play. What's going to happen is Maya or Arnold will only render this part of the image. So let it render. Alright, it's finished rendering at 14. We can actually take a snapshot of this. So I'm going to store a snapshot by hitting this icon here. I'm going to show you how that differs from a sample of 1. So I'm going to change this sample to 1. Hit enter. Alright, we'll let it render. Alright, now it's finished rendering at 12, and let's just store a snapshot of that. Let's compare between the two. So this is what we get if we render it at a low sample of 1. If we sample it at 3, look at how nicer that looks compared to the one before. So all the noise that you see here, all that dots here, let's just zoom it in. All that dots, that noise can be eliminated if you sample it at a higher setting of 3. So increasing this sample value will actually affect our renders. Although I'm not suggesting that everyone do it because your computer might not be able to handle it. So if your computer can, try and increase it, see if it crashes Maya. If not, then the next time you do it, don't do it. So that's my tips here. I've done 4 balls. The assignment requires you to do 9 balls. So you need to do 9 balls to complete this assignment. But what I'm going to do next is I will actually render the whole scene here. So I'm gonna press F and uncheck the crop region. We need to stage it properly. Alright, let's just stop this render for a bit. Also, I thought I had... Oh, okay. This is not showing there. Okay, so I want to place my glass ball somewhere here perhaps. Okay, we're going to kind of frame everyone in view. I only have 4 balls. You need to do 4, but this is just a sample on how you need to do the second part of the assignment, which is to label all of these balls. So get a nice staging, a nice setting. I'm going to pause the video and show you the complete render in a bit. Alright, so here we have the finished render at 1 minute and 39 seconds. With this image, what we need to do is we need to save it out. So I go inside Arnold Render View, I'll go to File and save that image. And by default, it will go inside the Images folder. And I will call this image as render balls sample. Okay, and what we need to do now, just like in the assignment, is we need to label these different materials. So I'll use a program like Photoshop. To me, that's much an easy way of doing this. So I'm gonna go inside my shading demo project folder, go inside images, and there they are, and the ball sample. And what we need to do is we're gonna label this. So I'm gonna use my type tool inside Photoshop, and I'll label each one of this, and I'll call this incandescent, like that. Make it nice and big so we see what that is. You can change the font if you want. I decide for the purpose of example, I just use this font. I'll call this glass. This would be plastic. And finally, this one here, which has been created for you, will be chrome. And you don't have to rely on these default chrome. If you want, you can tweak it. You can change it to a different colored chrome, perhaps, to make it look more brush, perhaps like a Christmas ball, chrome ball, perhaps. So it's up to you. Doesn't have to be exactly like mine. Can be of different colors. So that's the assignment, and save it out. I'll get a JPEG, and we'll call this, name it properly. Put your student ID, your full name, and what is it called, lab assignment 4, I think, and save. And that's what you need to submit. And go back to your images folder, and this is what you need to submit along with your Maya file. Okay, so I hope that was clear. If not, you can just post a message in Discord and ask me things that you do not understand. Alright, good luck with the assignment, and see you guys next week. Bye.